Hello everybody, it's Cherie with Cherie by Sea, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you everything I loved and everything I hated about Icon of the Seas, the world's largest cruise ship. Let's get into it. So first things first, a few facts about Icon of the Seas. It is the world's largest cruise ship, and its maiden voyage was January 27th of 2024. So it is still a relatively new cruise ship, as this is just June of 2025. It's about a year and a half old since its first sailing. It has 20 decks, 18 of those are guest decks, 2,805 staterooms. It holds 5,610 guests, that's at double occupancy, and it has 2,350 crew members, which if it's full at double occupancy only, that brings the grand total to 7,960 people aboard one giant cruise ship. It features the largest water park at sea, which is category 6. And as you can guess by the name, there are 6 mega water slides in this water park. And it was so fun. That's going to be in the list coming up. It has 13 complimentary restaurants, cafes, 15 specialty restaurants, and 18 bars and lounges. As you can probably tell, there are no shortage of things to do on this ship. I recently went on this cruise. It was a 7-day cruise out of Miami with my 14-year-old son, Eli. It was a mom-son cruise. There were some incidents on the ship. If you watch my videos, you know about that. If not, check this video out to get the scoop on the unfortunate event that happened to my son. It all worked out and we ended up having a lovely time, but there was a bit of a mishap. There were a lot of things that surprised me about this ship, a lot of things that I really didn't consider, and some of the things that I expected weren't really an issue. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. We're going to start, as always, on a positive note with the things that I loved about Icon of the Seas. The number one thing that I loved was the entertainment. This was my third Royal Caribbean cruise since my very first cruise, which was a little over a year ago now. I can't believe that. I mean, it's been less than a year and a half since I took my very first cruise, and I started a YouTube channel. Imagine that. And the entertainment has never disappointed. On this ship, I saw 3 shows. One was The Wizard of Oz. It was fantastic. I will say it was a little long. It's about an hour and a half long, so just heads up on that. But the cast was phenomenal. There's a live orchestra, the songs, the dancing, the acting, everything was phenomenal. They had beds flying around in the air, and it was really nostalgic. It was really, really well done, and I enjoyed it so much. The second show that I saw was Starburst, and that was the ice show. Now, on the other 2 ships that I went on, I did not attend an ice show because I thought, an ice show, like, how interesting can it be to watch people ice skate to music for an hour? And boy, was I wrong. I loved this show. I even got teary-eyed a couple of times during the show. It was phenomenal. There's several different acts throughout the show. It's about an hour-long show, and they also had a juggler, which was incredible. When I think of juggling, I don't really expect that much. I mean, like, how entertaining can juggling be? Kind of the same way I felt about ice skating, but I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. It may be my favorite show that I saw on Icon. It's hard to really compare the 3 shows that I saw because they were all so different. I would have paid money to go see all of these shows. That's how good they were. And finally, the last show that I saw on the last day of my cruise was Aqua Action. And that is the big Cirque du Soleil type show that involves lots of water and diving and acrobatics. It was phenomenal. It was a spectacle for the eyes. You really had to be looking like everywhere to see everything that was going on. The lights and the sounds and the incredible acrobatics. It was a magical show. For me, it held my attention the entire time. So I highly recommend going to see all of these shows. If you were only going to pick one, I would probably say to go see Aqua Action because it's just so unlike anything you're going to see on any other cruise ship. Okay, let's move on to number 2. The number 2 thing that I loved about Icon of the Seas were the sheer amount of pools and hot tubs. There were 7 swimming pools and 9 hot tubs. And one of the things I mentioned at the beginning of this video about what I expected versus what I got is I really expected everything to be crowded. It holds so many people that I just thought massive crowds were going to be unavoidable. And particularly with the pool and hot tub situation, that was just not the case. I never felt crowded. I never had a problem finding a pool that I could hang out in. My favorite one was on deck 17 because they had all of these pool beds and lots of chairs and even lots of seating that was kind of adjacent to the pool, so it might not be right there poolside, but it was very close by the bar in between the pool and the hot tub, which was also never very busy. And when I did get in the hot tub, it was that one because it was never crowded. If there were people in it, there were usually only 2 or 3 people in a massive hot tub on that deck. So there's a tip: deck 17, pool and hot tub, and there is a bar right in between. It was my perfect place for hanging out on the ship. And in addition to all the pools and the hot tubs, there was the water park, category 6. Of course, it's the largest water park at sea. And there were racing slides like group raft slides, the thrill slides that kind of go straight down. I'm way too chicken for that, but I did get on. I never could get Eli to join me at the water park, but I did go on one of the raft slides where you hold on and you go down face first. Oh my God. It was scary and thrilling and oh so much fun. I forgot that I was on a cruise ship until I got to the top and looked over at the view from the top, and which added to my terror. But it was the best kind of terror, that thrill-seeking urge that I don't have much of, but it was really satisfied by that water slide. And again, as I mentioned in one of my videos, lots of seating everywhere around the water park, so you never had an issue. Even on a sea day, which is the day that I decided to go enjoy the water park, I did not have to fight or scramble or look for a place to sit. I did not have to stand in line long for the water slide, which was very surprising to me. So that's another thing that I really loved about Icon of the Seas. The number 3 thing that I loved was the teen club and kids program. And now I didn't have any experience with the other kids programs, but we did visit the teen club, and Eli spent many hours there. They had tons of activities and a great group hangout space for the kids, and they were very welcoming when we came in to take our tour and explained everything to us well. In addition to being able to find the schedule on the app, the kids could go in the teen club and check in, and they had this big whiteboard where they wrote everything out that was happening that day and changed it daily. And Eli really enjoyed that space, and it made his cruise. And although I would have liked to spend more time with him, if you are a family that has several kids and you really just want to have some alone time, you will really appreciate the teen and kids club because they do their best to keep them busy. And if your kid is willing, they can stay busy all day long. And Eli did on most days. All right, number 4, the overall ship spaces and design. There were so many great places to hang out. And all of the Oasis class and up ships are divided into these neighborhoods. Icon has 8 neighborhoods, and several of them were just perfect for just going and chilling or fulfilling different needs. So let's go over a few of them right now. Number 1 was Surfside. If I had little kids, I would spend the majority of my time in Surfside. There were plenty of things for adults to do. There was a nice bar, which was right there by all of the water features for kids. There was like a splash pad area, the big bucket that would dump water down on their heads. And I just sat there for a while and enjoyed seeing the kids delight and squeal over that while the parents chilled with a cocktail. And there was a big infinity pool also there that's more shallow for the younger kids to play in. This is also the area where the carousel was, and an arcade and a candy shop, and the new casual restaurant Pier 17. There were other included restaurants in that area. I can't exactly remember what they were, but I'll put them on the bottom of the screen. There was an ice cream station there. It was just the perfect area for you to go and chill all the day long with your young kids. And then there was the overlook area, which was behind the Aqua Theater, which I didn't discover until several days into the cruise. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, did I not watch YouTube videos before I went on Icon? This area was gorgeous. It was absolutely stunning. There were lots of spaces to lounge there, as well as its own dedicated coffee shop that didn't open until 10 o'clock, FYI. It was called the Rye and Bean Coffee Shop. I got a delicious cold coconut coffee and chilled in there for one glorious morning. This would be the perfect spot to catch a sunset or a sunrise. I loved this area so much. And then there was Playmakers. So Playmakers is also on the Oasis class ships and up, and you do have to pay to get food in there. They have like bar fare food like wings and burgers and things like that, nachos. But our food in there was really good and it wasn't expensive. And there's things like pool tables and shuffleboard, and they're different included games on every ship, and I can't remember exactly what all Icon had. I know there was a pool table, and I know there were arcade games, including Pac-Man, which I did not have to pay for. So ding, 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 bonus, 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 because the arcade on Icon was very expensive. The one on Surfside, I think it was like $2.50 a game or something like that. It was just outrageous. But Pac-Man was free, so I was happy as happy could be, and the food was good. And then there was the Pearl Cafe, kind of the centerpiece of Icon of the Seas. The thing that you see when you first get on is this giant, beautiful pearl structure that's made of over 3,000 computer-driven kinetic tiles. And these tiles move and change colors all throughout the day and night. It is spectacular. Lots of people taking photos there. It's a great place for photo ops. And if you walk up and behind the Pearl, there is the Pearl Cafe, which also serves Starbucks coffee that's less expensive than the Starbucks that's just right down the stairs, FYI. And there's also included food for like breakfast and lunch. And it's a beautiful place to hang out in the mornings and get breakfast if you don't want to go in the crowded buffet, and have your coffee and maybe even get some work done. I saw several people doing work on their computers in there, especially in the morning time when I went to go get my coffee. So Icon of the Seas gets really high marks on their beautiful spaces that are all around the ship. Number 5 thing that I liked on Icon of the Seas was my cabin, because I booked an inside cabin. Now, I have stayed in inside cabins before, and even on larger ships. I stayed in an inside cabin on Carnival Jubilee, which is their XL class, which is their largest class of ships. And I shared that room with a friend, and it was okay. But on Icon, though I don't prefer an inside cabin, but the fare was so expensive, I was saving money any way that I could here. And I was pleasantly surprised at how much room we had in there. The thing that I liked about it most is that it had like a separate walk-in closet area that also had a vanity area, so I could go in there to change clothes without having to go in the teeny tiny cruise ship bathroom. I hate changing clothes in a cruise ship bathroom. And if I have someone with me, I can't be changing my clothes all willy-nilly out in the cabin. So this was particularly great for me because there was lots of privacy over there, and it was a place where I could sit and do my makeup and get ready or be on my computer or whatever I needed to do there. I really appreciated that, and I didn't feel near as cramped because of that aspect. So I really liked my cabin choice on Icon, and I would probably get an inside cabin again if I ever decided to do Icon again. And last but not least on this list of things that I loved was the elevator system. Now, I have seen this new elevator technology when I cruised MSC Seascape, and people have really strong opinions about it. Some people love it, some people hate it. Personally, I love it. I never had to wait long on an elevator. The elevator was never crowded. One thing that I hate about cruise ship elevators is sometimes you will get in there and people will just pack in around you like sardines. And I don't like that. I'm not a germaphobe, but I need a little bit of personal space. You know what I mean? I never had this issue on Icon of the Seas. As many people that were on this ship, I was so shocked. So you just press, there are machines located around the elevator decks, and you press what floor you want to go to, and it directs you to a lettered elevator to get onto. And it worked perfectly for us the whole time. There was no fuss, no wait, no crowds. Okay. So now for my least favorite part of every review video, and that is the things that I hated about Icon of the Seas. There were a few. There's not so many on the things I hate list as there are on the things I loved list. But for me, these were really important things that would possibly prevent me from sailing on this ship alone, unless the circumstances were just right. Number one thing that I hated was the food. There were lots of food venues to choose from. I just wasn't a fan. I didn't like the Chinese food that we had. I didn't like the crepes. I didn't like the mac and cheese place. And I love mac and cheese. It just wasn't flavorful. It just wasn't for me. The Aquadome Marketplace, the buffet, it looked beautiful. I usually go to the buffet on a ship if they have one on the first day, and it looked wonderful. There was lots of seafood and steak, and I got a little bit of everything. And it was just blah. It just wasn't good. I think I tried a dessert too, and I was just very unimpressed. So I just kind of nibbled a little bit at what I got and left the rest on my plate, which was such a waste. But it wasn't good. I did go to Giovanni's, which I had been to Giovanni's on another ship, and I was not impressed with Giovanni's, and it was very expensive. The best food that I had on the ship was the casual specialty restaurant Pier 17, located in the Surfside community. That was great. Very inexpensive. Everything that we ate, the appetizer, the main course, the dessert, was perfection. Loco Fresh is a fave of mine. I ate there more than I ate anywhere else. And I also ate at Base Camp one day and had a burger, and that was also good. And I've told you guys that I liked Playmakers. That was an extra charge. So all the places that I really liked fell into the casual category. But to Icon's defense, the only specialty restaurant that was kind of, more upscale was Giovanni's. And I just wasn't impressed with Giovanni's on this ship. I had it on Harmony and absolutely loved it. This time, it just didn't hit the spot. And that's really disappointing for the amount of money that you pay to go on Icon of the Seas. My expectations were a little higher because of the cost, because it was new, because it was the world's biggest cruise ship. I just thought everything should be a step above. At the bare minimum, it should have been as good as Harmony, the Oasis class ship that I went on, and it was not. It fell way below the mark. You may disagree. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's mine. Number two thing that I did not like was the lack of a solo program. Look, Royal doesn't have a great solo program. They don't have a solo program. There were some solo meetings that I noticed, but they were unhosted. And I did not even attempt to attend. I have walked by them on the other ships, and you don't even know they meet in a bar or a lounge area, and there's lots of other people around. and you don't even know like who's there for the solo meetup. I was disappointed by that because even though I came with Eli, if you watched my vlog series on that, I felt a little lonely on this cruise, and I would have participated in the solo program to fill the time that Eli was hanging out with all of his friends. A good solo program like Virgin has is kind of like the teen club for adults. You can meet new people and form relationships and hang out when you don't feel like being alone. And there was none of that. So that's a big minus for me. I do cruise solo from time to time. Number 3, the ports. Now, again, let me mention how expensive this cruise was. I'll put the price that I paid for an inside cabin here on the screen. And initially, we were supposed to go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, Labadee, Haiti, and St. Martin, which that's still kind of a low amount of ports for a 7-day cruise on a ship like this. But I mean, I was satisfied enough with that. So maybe about a month before, San Juan was canceled and changed to Ponce, Puerto Rico, which is a cruise port that usually ships just go in for maintenance. It's not a port that passengers usually disembark at. So this was brand new for Ponce and for all of the passengers on board. And there wasn't a lot to do there. There wasn't a lot offered in terms of excursions or beaches and things like that to go to. I think there was a beach you could go to, but there just wasn't a lot of information, and so most everyone just got off and walked around. We had to be trolleyed to the actual town. The ship did provide free transportation to the city center where all of the activities and things were. If you had an inside cabin, you were only offered $75 in compensation for the missed port of San Juan. I thought that was pretty low considering the price of the ticket. And so there were a lot of sea days. And that was a big bummer for me, I gotta say. Ponce is a lovely, beautiful city. The people were very friendly and welcoming. It just wasn't what I signed up for, and I was disappointed. Labadee was canceled because, there is unrest in that country and it was deemed kind of unsafe for us to be there. So I don't fault them in that. I just wish that they had replaced one of these ports, maybe taken us to Royal's private island. I'm sure if they could have, they would have. I just wish they would have offered more compensation or another port, because it was far too many port days for me on this cruise. And the last thing that I did not like on Icon of the Seas was the adults only area. There were a couple of things that I didn't like about the adults only area. Let me preface this by saying the adults only area on Harmony of the Seas, I loved it. You had your own little cafe that had a buffet, so you could go eat breakfast or lunch there without the big crowds and without kids, and it was included. I loved that on Harmony. It was covered. They had several hot tubs and lots of day beds and things to lounge in. They did not have a pool, so that was the downside on Harmony. On Icon of the Seas, it was like a totally outdoor area, which was right below the surf simulator. And it was very crowded every single time I went by there. And although there was a very large pool and that had an infinity edge and ocean view, they had these 3 giant day beds in the middle of the pool, taking up precious real estate that you could only get by paying a very high extra charge. I think it's around $350, and each bed can accommodate 4 people. So for the sake of a maximum of 12 people, you took up half of the pool real estate. I didn't like that at all. I feel like they're getting enough money from us in plenty of other ways on that ship that they could have just let us have a big adults only area pool, and maybe I would have felt comfortable hanging out in there. There was a bar area there, and there were a few hot tubs, 2 or 3 hot tubs. But if you're interested in renting a day bed, I think it was like around $350 if you rent it before the cruise and $400 on board, but I'm sure they book out very quickly and probably well in advance. And you get champagne and water bottles and towels and a dedicated waiter. If you're 18 to 20, instead of the champagne, you get 4 complimentary mocktails. But it seems a little skeezy to me to take up so much of the adults only area with these beds that you have to rent, and they hold so few people, and they're just laying there in the middle of the pool, taking up all the room. It was very odd to me, and it just hit me the wrong kind of way, you know? So that's it, guys. There were only 4 things. Those were the things that I hated about Icon of the Seas. Would I cruise on Icon again? Probably not. This is not a cruise I would want to take my girlfriends on, or even a significant other, a cruise bay. The only way that I would cruise Icon, to me, it's kind of comparable to like Disney World. It's great to take your family on once. And if Icon of the Seas had a great solo program, I might would go on Icon alone. But as it stands now, with the experience that I had, I would not go back on Icon unless I was with like all of my kids, and when they have kids, their kids. This is a great cruise to take multi-generational families on, or for families with young kids, or families with multiple kids. You know, it's great. It's great for group family trips. There's plenty of things to do on this ship. There's lots of pluses. But for me, personally, I would not go back unless I had a large group of people with me. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video, that it's helped you to make a decision on whether or not you should book Icon of the Seas. There were plenty of things to love about this ship. And there were also things that I would consider if my circumstances in any way match your own. My next cruise is going to be a reunion cruise with 4 of the other solos that I met on my first solo cruise on Virgin several months ago. We are going on a 4-day booze cruise out of Miami, where we stop at Key West, and I finally get to go to Bimini. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And until next time, as always, happy cruising.